Raise a glass with our hosts as we spend the next hour talking about technology for the common person. Welcome to TechTime Radio with Nathan Mumm.
Welcome to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm, the show that makes you go, technology news of the week, the show for the everyday person talking about technology, broadcasting across the nation with insightful segments on subjects weeks ahead of the mainstream media. We welcome our radio audience of 35 million listeners to an hour of insightful technology news. I'm Nathan Mumm, your host and technologist with over 30 years of technology expertise. We have our co-host, Mike Raday, in the studio today. He's an award-winning author and a human behavior expert. Now, of course, we're live streaming during our show on four of the most popular platforms, including YouTube, Twitch.tv, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We encourage you to visit us online at techtimeradio.com and become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/techtimeradio. Now, we are all friends with different backgrounds, but we bring the best technology show possible each week for our family, friends, and fans to enjoy. We're glad to have Odie, our producer, at the control panel today. Welcome, everyone. Let's start today's show. Uh-oh, there's no audio. Okay.
Are we going to... There it is.
Now on today's show.
All right, there goes a little post-editing right there. Now, today on Tech Time with Nathan Mumm, buckle up as we dive into the latest tech news and stories. Here's what we have coming up today. Google Search Supremacy. What happens when a titan in the search engine throne is dethroned? Is this a seismic shift or a mere ripple in the algorithmic ocean of search itself? We discuss this as our top story, and we're going to have a roundtable discussion with all of us from Tech Time Radio, as this change may be one of the largest to explore over the internet and how it was used, how it will be used in the years to come. Then imagine a world where privacy-focused search engines are silenced. Why did Indonesia slam the door on DuckDuckGo? And what does it mean for your online privacy? And what lies beneath the surface when a text flows freely without a watermark? Could users unwantedly sail into treacherous territory? We'll take a look at that. And a time capsule on Earth. Picture a bygone era where microcomputers were the size of bread box. What secrets are held in our look back at technology in our digital landscape? And then finally, in the age of AI, misinformation spreads like wildfire. How can you tame the chatbot tempest on X? In addition to this, we have, of course, our standard features, including Mike's mesmerizing moment, our technology fail of the week, and a possible Nathan Nugget, and of course, our pick of the day whiskey tasting to see if our selected whiskey pick gets 0, 1, or 2 thumbs up by the end of the show. But now it's time for the latest headlines in the world of technology.
Here are our top technology stories of the week.
All right. Google loses the massive antitrust case over its search dominance. A judge on Monday ruled that Google search engine has been illegally exploited its dominancy to squash the competition and stifle innovation that will shake up the internet and hobble the world's best-known company. Let's go to Corinne Westland for more on the story.
The highly anticipated decision issued by U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta comes nearly a year after the start of a trial pitting the U.S. Justice Department against Google in the country's biggest antitrust showdown in a quarter century. After reviewing reams of evidence that included testimony from top executives at Google, Microsoft, and Apple during last year's 10-week trial, Mehta issued his potentially market-shifting decision. After having carefully considered and weighed the witness testimony and evidence, the court reaches the following conclusion. Google is a monopolist, and it has acted as one to maintain its monopoly, Mehta wrote in his ruling. Google's dominance in the search market is evidence of its monopoly. Back to you in the studio.
All right, so we're going to be talking about this in our roundtable, but let's just kind of talk about some of the facts that are out there. Now, essentially, Google, its parent company is called Alphabet Inc., is a popular search engine that we're all familiar with, right? You have 8.5 billion queries per day worldwide, nearly doubling the volume from just 12 years ago. Now, Kent Walker, Google's president of global affairs, said the company intends to appeal the findings. This decision recognizes that Google offers the best search engine, that was in the notes of information, but concluded that we shouldn't be allowed to make it easily available. All right. Essentially, the victory is a historic win for American people. Attorney General Garland said, "No company, no matter how large, influential, is above the law. The Justice Department will continue to vigorously enforce our antitrust laws." Meta's ruling focused on billions of dollars Google spends every year to install its search engines as a default option on new cell phone and tech gadgets. In 2021 alone, Google spent more than $26 billion to lock in these default agreements. Now, in the evidence, essentially Microsoft Bing search engine has 80% of the market share on Microsoft Edge browser. The judge that said that he was looking at search engines can be successful compared to Google if they're not locked into a predetermined default option. That's a very interesting deal here because Microsoft Edge browsers are essentially what comes with the Microsoft OS. So Microsoft, with their search browser, uses Bing, and they use Edge. They kind of have that monopoly of the operating system of making that all built into one. But they actually use them in a case study against Google, saying that their search attached with, of course, their Chrome browser, being that their Google search algorithm comes in with that, is the problem in this case.
I don't know if that's a problem.
You don't think that's a
because
problem?
Microsoft Edge has been a really crappy search engine for years and years.
And some of the items that they're actually contesting, Google's going to say that they were not the first search engine. Essentially, Yahoo was the
Ask Jeeves.
Well, Ask Jeeves was around, but Yahoo was the very first search engine. And then the second ones after that, there was Alta Vista. You ever remember Web Crawler, Alta Vista?
I remember all of those
that were available. Now, Google has, though, been dominant for over 20 years. And so people seem to forget what happens 20 years previously and kind of looks back to the center 10 to 15 years. We're going to talk more about this on our next segment with our roundtable of our staff. We're going to be talking about what may happen to Google, what are some of the decisions that have been made, and some of them that are still unclear on what the judge is actually going to determine for Google. But this is going to be a huge shakeup. Before we get into the roundtable, I just want to say this can shape the way that the web moves forward with this antitrust case. I worked at Microsoft during an antitrust case when they came out about the operating systems that we'll be talking about also. So this is pretty major. I think it deserves a pretty good long story and probably a couple follow-ups in the next coming weeks too. All right, story number 2. All right, Odie, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Okay.
So ChatGPT users said that OpenAI won't watermark ChatGPT text because its users could get caught.
Okay.
That's the headline. Some ChatGPT users said that they'd use ChatGPT less if it included watermarks. OpenAI has had a system for watermarking ChatGPT, created text and a tool to detect the watermark ready for about a year, reports the Wall Street Journal. But the company is divided internally over whether to release it. On the one hand, it seems like the responsible thing to do. On the other hand, it could hurt its bottom line. OpenAI's watermarking is described as adjusting how the model predicts the most likely words and phrases that will follow the previous ones, creating a detectable pattern. Offering any way to detect AI written material is a potential boon for teachers trying to deter students from turning over writing assignments to AI. The journal reports that the company found watermarking didn't affect the quality of its chatbot's text output. In a survey the company commissioned, people worldwide supported the idea of an AI detection tool by a margin of 4-1, end quote. After the journal published its story, OpenAI confirmed its work on watermarking text in a blog post, but it seems OpenAI is also worried that using watermarking could turn off surveyed ChatGPT users, almost 30% of whom evidently told the company that they use the software less if watermarking was implemented.
Okay, so
yeah, if they got caught cheating, why would they use something?
So there are some AI. So Adobe AI puts a little watermark on their stuff when you use their AI mark for graphics and embedded videos. Regarding text, I'm very conflicted on the text aspect, right? Because I think text is completely different than AI graphics or AI movies or AI original contents.
Why?
Well, because people plagiarize text all the time, and they've done that.
And
they've
you're
done
okay
that,
with that?
Well, they've done that before computers even existed.
Yes.
People would come out with books, and they'd rewrite books and rewrite books and rewrite books. So I have a completely different level of book writers being plagiarized, I guess, than artwork than plagiarized.
Since you're not a book writer, it's okay to plagiarize stuff.
Well, versus art or other type of graphics that are there. And if I was I use ChatGPT all the time.
Yes, we know.
And if I was using that and I cut and pasted something into a report that saved me time from having to write something, I don't think I should be dinged for that because I found a way to be more proficient with my time.
It's funny. It's funny how efficiency is the term to get around laziness.
Okay. Well, if it takes me 2 hours, so let's say I'm mad about something, okay? And I put in ChatGPT and I say, these are the facts, make it much nicer. That's way better for me than to send an email off to somebody, than to have the pissed off version that I was going to send to somebody that would have caused a problem.
So if you're using it as a tool to enhance your writing, I agree with that.
Okay.
But using it as a way to not write, I'm against. Because before you go off, if in that aspect, what if let's say if I'm a student, I have, homework, I've got other classes to think about, and I have to write an essay, but I also have to go to work after the long day of school.
Okay.
Who's to say I can't just, write an essay using ChatGPT and then go about my day? Would I be at fault if I fail the grade? I'm like, oh, well, I just have a bunch of other things that I need to do. I just want to be efficient with what I want to convey in my essay and have an AI.
What if it started your essay and essentially came up with the body of the essay and then you have to go back and write it again? Because you're just changing, because let's say you're doing an essay about George Washington, right? And it has a lot of great facts about George Washington, but then you go back in there and you change it, but now you're like, okay, this helps me here, this helps me here.
The way that I would use it is I would ask it to make an outline for me so that I have another, like a structured path of what to do.
Okay.
Because that is something that I do struggle with, like being concise with my writing, but I wouldn't then change my voice. I'm not going to sound the same as a ChatGPT
No,
bot,
of course not.
Right. I think the biggest problem here is that we're talking about using a written language to convey ideas. And when we come through school, we're taught how to write, and we think it's drudgery, but we are actually learning how to communicate with somebody else. If we do not learn the craft of writing, whether it's from a small level where, I don't expect everybody to be like me and want to write novels and things, but if you are relying on a chatbot to create the information that you're trying to organize in your brain, you're not doing it. So you're not learning how to write. You're just putting information into a machine that's going to do it for you and convey the information to somebody else.
Also,
and I see, you got that little, I really disagree with you because I'm not a writer.
I totally disagree with you, but that's okay. That's all right. We can have two opinions.
What? Right? For your job, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But for my job, where it's specifically, I have to come up with promos and write out people's scripts and things like that, I could save a lot of time just putting a show's information through ChatGPT and then having the chatbot write it.
Like our scripts are written, because we know the script. We know the script is written with ChatGPT.
There's no way I wouldn't. ChatGPT does not misspell and put the grammar the way that I do. What are you talking about?
Are you kidding?
I mean, I what do you,
with all the stuff that you talk about at the beginning of the show, with all the little alliterations and things. That's not you. That's ChatGPT.
Oh, that is ChatGPT. Yeah, absolutely. So the captions that I lead into the show with,
that's all.
Have been there since like day one. I've been using an AI to help be creative, because I'm not creative enough to say, let's take a trip on a boat.
But, my stance is always going to be these type of things take away from the human experience.
Really?
Yeah. Because
what if a human is not creative? Because I'm not very creative. So
why should you get away with it though? That's my whole thing. At least admit that you're using the AI. I have no problem with you. It enhances your work. It enhances the show.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But you can't be like, oh yeah, I wrote the whole script of the show.
Yeah. Well, everything that we talk about when it comes to AI is taking away from human experience. whether
AI,
it's
I have
whether
to
it's
edit.
with
I put the
movies or
AI
with
into
art.
Grammarly and other stuff because the AI isn't as good as you think.
Right.
Yeah, and when I was in grade school, I hated writing.
Okay.
I didn't want to write reports. I hated it.
I actually liked it.
We got it. Did you remember diagramming sentences?
I
I
did.
don't even know if that's even
Adverbs
taught
and
anymore.
adjectives.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I had
Conjunction, junction. What's your function?
Yeah. If I wouldn't have had the ABC
Right.
after school special stuff available for me, I probably wouldn't have done really well because my teachers weren't that good at.
Yeah, and I
teaching that.
get that, and I understand that not everybody wants to write these reports, but like I'm saying, if you're replacing that with a machine that does it for you, you're not only taking away from human experience, you're taking away from your own development.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I agree with that.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Not to say that I'm
I see.
anti-AI. I'm not.
Okay,
You know,
that's fine.
it's helpful.
So I'm
You
pro,
save
I'm
so
pro
much
I'm pro
time.
positive.
Yeah,
Mike's a little negative on the AI. And you're kind of in the middle. That's
here's where I use it. I like using the AI to help me work through a problem
as a tool.
So like when I'm thinking about something and I want information about like say Mesopotamia. Okay, I can go on to Bing and I can start asking it specific questions. Who founded the city of Ur? Who did this? Who did that? And
so that's how you use AI?
Yes. And
I
so
never use that. I would go immediately to Wikipedia and then type in the stuff and then search it from there. So we have like two different.
Yeah,
I would
know,
never use AI for any of that type of stuff.
I get that because that's how we would used to do it. But I found that it's a lot easier for me to find information by typing it into Bing's Copilot.
Would you consider yourself a little bit more of a creative thinker than myself?
I think probably I am.
Okay.
I don't know.
So I struggle sometimes being creative with words, and so I find the AI helps me to be more creative in my.
But let me. I just want to point out something is that that's okay if you want to do that, but you have to actually know how to pronounce the words that you're getting from the machine.
Sometimes I write down stuff and I still mispronounce it, so that's just me looking ahead at too quickly instead of concentrating on the word in front of me.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
What were you raising your hand for a little earlier in the show?
Oh, I was counting the times you used essentially.
Essentially.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Because you just say essentially like a whole bunch.
Okay,
and
well,
so
I'm gonna go.
I just started flagging every single time.
I'm gonna go through the rest of the show not saying essentially.
Right.
Yeah, sure you are.
You just said it now.
Oh no, there you go. All right. Let's move on to story number 3.
Okay, so DuckDuckGo is something we've talked about in the past. Guess what? Indonesia has done? They have blocked DuckDuckGo because people are using DuckDuckGo to view things like gambling sites and porn.
What? Okay.
Privacy-focused search engine DuckDuckGo has been blocked in Indonesia by its government after citizens reportedly claimed complaints. See, now I can't even speak. I've been listening to you so long. I can't say words.
Okay, right.
Complained about pornographic and online gambling content in the search results. The government's choice to block DuckDuckGo isn't surprising, considering the cultural and religious context, with Indonesia being a Muslim country where gambling is prohibited and porn is viewed as morally unacceptable. In January 2024, Indonesia announced it blocked nearly 600,000 online gambling portals and took action against 5,000 bank accounts that engage with them. The government has previously blocked numerous pornography sites, Reddit, and Vimeo, and imposed temporary or partial restrictions on things like Tumblr, Telegram, TikTok, Netflix, and Badoo. DuckDuckGo has now confirmed that Indonesia blocked its search engine in the country and that it has no means to respond to it. At the same time, Google search remains accessible in Indonesia, which suggests that either the tech giant has implemented effective self-censorship mechanisms for its local search engines, or its size makes blocking it too disruptive for internet usage in the country. So I guess maybe we'll find out later if Google has taken out what happens to Indonesia, huh?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna. I have a mesmerizing moment question that I'm gonna later about that. So it seems very interesting that Google search remains accessible, which is considered the largest and biggest search. Now they're going to be maybe in trouble with that, but they decided to block DuckDuckGo, which actually isn't really anonymous. It still reports all of its information into MSN's Bing search
Well,
algorithms.
well,
We
clearly
talked
because
about
the
that.
Indonesian government is getting the information
That is their back.
that it's there.
They would not have known that it was their
That's
back
right. So
unless
it
it
can't
wasn't
be
being
completely
tracked.
private.
That's right. Well, that ends our top technology stories of the week. Moving on, we have gathered the Knights of the Round Table on our Tech Time staff for the next segment, Roundtable about the monopoly ruling of Google. You're listening to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm. We'll see you after this commercial break.
This is Mark
And Greg.
for Copiers Northwest
With a terrific offer.
called Printer Care Plus.
It's simple. Buy HP printer cartridges from Copiers Northwest. It will service your current printers for free.
That sounds too good to be true.
It's made possible due to our HP Copiers Northwest relationship.
Copiers Northwest is an HP Platinum partner.
One of only 2 in the entire Northwest.
And now with Printer Care Plus,
Copiers Northwest will provide free printer service.
as long as they purchase genuine HP cartridges from Copiers Northwest,
That's right. IT departments no longer have to service printers.
or fix paper jams with Printer Care Plus,
They can focus on more strategic initiatives.
and let our experienced technicians keep their HP printers up and running.
Sounds like a love-love relationship for IT departments.
Don't get too carried away. So how do they get more details on Printer Care Plus?
Call Copiers Northwest today, 206-282-1200, or visit copiersnw.com.
Copiers Northwest. New ideas, new solutions.
Welcome back to Tech Time with Nathan Mumm. Our weekly show covers the top technology subjects without any political agenda. We verify the facts, and we do it, of course, with a little whiskey on the side in 60 minutes. Now, today, Mark Gregoire, a whiskey connoisseur, is back in studio. Mark, what are we tasting today?
Today, we are drinking Old Charter Oak Spanish Oak. Now, you can't tell from the name, but this is from Buffalo Trace. This is the 5th release in the experimental line of the Old Charter Oak series. Aged at Buffalo Trace Distillery, this innovative whiskey sits in stark contrast to its counterparts aged in traditional American oak barrels. While American oak is a softer, sweeter taste with notes of vanilla and caramel, European oak, including this Spanish oak variety, is drier, spicier, and has a stronger wood input. That's long used for aging the world's finest sherries, is what this oak is used for. Spanish oak imbues tasty notes of deep oak and dense caramel, followed by the rich vanilla and abundance of dark stone fruit, finishing with notes of toasted nuts and baking spice. So as we mentioned, this is Sazerac Company, Buffalo Trace Distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky. This is considered straight bourbon. It's non-age stated. It's 92 proof, so it's not super high. Mash bill's undisclosed. And the pricing is very interesting.
What's that? How much is it?
MSRP is $70. But if you
Okay.
go online and try and buy this, I found it's upwards of $700.
Wow. So it's like a 10x return on your
Absolutely. I've
Okay.
personally have never really seen this ever in a liquor store, in a store ever.
So we got to pour more of it.
Yeah, pour more of it. I don't know. I don't know if I want any more of it. I'm kind of I'm not really liking it. I mean, I normally like almost just about anything. I'm kind of struggling.
Well, the
with it.
$70 may have tipped the scale.
The $70.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
no,
got everything that you like. You know,
it's not.
it's got a real cork.
I do like that.
It's under $100, but it's not under $20. So right there, that's an out
Well,
for you.
I go to 50 now. With
Oh,
inflation, I've gone to
you've-
50.
You've
So
moved your
that's
marker.
right. I have.
So we'll talk a little bit more in the mumbles about the whiskey.
Okay.
I'll talk about that, but it takes a little bit. This is a tough first pour of the night. It is a great end of the night pour. It is unique. I couldn't sit here and kill the bottle ever. It's too intense, too robust. It's a sipper, and it's like at single glass.
Okay.
At the end of the night.
It continues on.
Very dark too.
It's got, yeah. All right. Well, with our first whiskey tasting completed, let's move on to our feature segment. Today, we've summoned our round table of Tech Time staff to talk about the huge technology ruling about Google search and Google. The company now is being called a monopoly. Let's start our next segment.
Welcome to Tech Time Radio's Round Table.
All right, here we go. I'm passing the Monopoly game board here. This is
Why
what
are
we
you
call a
passing?
Monopoly. You see that? I got Monopoly, Nintendo Collector's Edition. So I think you can be Mario or Donkey Kong or Luigi. We're going to be talking about Monopolies. Now, it's very interesting because I worked at a company that lost an antitrust case, Microsoft, when I was there during the time that the ruling came on down. And at that time, everybody went on out and bought Monopoly games, and they all came on in and jokingly as a kind of a type of deal. Like, oh, now we're a Monopoly. Here you go. Here's this. Here's this. It became kind of a running joke for about the first month or so. And then all of a sudden, I think management got all mad at everybody and said, knock it off. Don't be doing anything like that at all.
It is a little funny that, a monopoly is a bad thing, but yet we have this game where the whole goal is for you to monopolize the board.
Do you know it's the number one selling board game of all time?
Yeah.
There's so many different rip-offs of it.
It teaches you how to screw over your buddies.
Take rent and put stuff in free parking. All right, so let's kind of talk about this. And we got Odie's in here. We got Mark in here. So Google is essentially a monopoly. I just love this. Do you understand the judge's name is
you said it.
Meta? Sorry. Okay. Is Meta. So it couldn't be any nicer than having Meta make a ruling against the Alphabet company. Because Meta.
Can I just say that when that audio first played, I thought I was playing the wrong audio?
Did you? Because of the judge's name is Meta?
It kept saying Meta.
Yeah, now he wrote a 277-page opinion based upon what was going on. Now, Google controls 66% of the world's browsing, 74% of the world's smartphone software, and 92% of the search engine market. Google and plaintiffs will spar on how severe the penalty should be, presenting experts and written testimony before Meta issues another opinion in order. So he came back with his ruling, what he believes is happening, and now there's going to be this back and forth. I think this opinion is okay. I think this is not okay. Essentially, Meta will have roughly all the way until probably the end of 2024 before he actually comes up with fines and penalties. Now, Senator Elizabeth Warren wrote a piece on breaking up big tech in which she proposes spinning off Google Search. So let's talk about spinning off search. Google can spin off search as a new company or sell its search. Advertising, though, accounts for 80% of the company's revenues in the last quarter. But without search, Google's advertising business falls apart. Take the company from 2019 full year earnings of nearly $135 billion in advertising revenue. Google racked in around $98 billion of that through their search advertising. So would it be a good idea for Google to spin off their search algorithm? What do you think about that? I'm going to start first.
Are you talking about voluntarily?
Well, this is one of the options they can do. They can sell
oh, yeah, we're a monopoly, so we're going to sell off my search
Can I
engine.
ask a question before you get into the specifics?
Yep.
I need an overarching umbrella comment from you.
Okay.
Person. So is this monopoly antitrust decision going to be similar to the Microsoft, as you mentioned, which has very little to no impact because they find ways around it? Or is it going to be like the Bell system when they did that monopoly and totally broke up the telephone company?
So I'm not an expert on this, but the people that are experts are saying that this will be a much more of the telephone type of breakup where they're going to be sanctions and penalties that are so great that they will not be able to write a check to continue operating as they are. So they will have to break up as a part of the penalties, each of these different items. Okay. So we're going to cover a couple of those. The Microsoft was more of a hand slap.
Mm-hmm.
Even when the ruling came on out at that time, experts also expected it to be a little bit more of a hand slap. We just had to pay at Microsoft a bunch of penalties. We had to help make sure Mac didn't disappear with its OS that was available there. Linux was still around and is still around even to this day. So there are other OSs that are around, more of a hand slap. This is expected to be, which is very interesting, to be the Bell breakup that essentially moves companies all over the globe itself.
So as we move into the AI market and Google is being left behind in the AI market, is this really something that's necessary?
Well, okay. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? I mean, right now, Google is not leading the AI search area at all, right?
No. I mean, part of this is consumer behavior, right?
Yep.
I go to Google. I have preferred to go to Google for forever. But now it's becoming so bad with the amount of advertising that Google throws at me that I have now switched. Like I said earlier, now I prefer to go to Bing's Copilot
Okay.
and search that way, because then I can get what I want as a lot faster than trying to navigate all of Google's ploys to get me to buy stuff.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I think that's a very fair assessment. Google isn't ahead in the AI race. So is search as important to them now as it would have been 2 or 3 years ago? I mean, Odie, what do you use when you search your browser right now?
I still use Google.
You still use Google as
Yeah.
your main default?
I hate that it gives me AI as a response
Okay.
at times. But I also really hate that it gives me sponsored websites as well.
Okay.
So I do hate that.
Okay. So, but you're still okay using them to search. Do you still trust their results most of the time that you get from Google?
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly, yeah.
Okay.
And also, personally, to me, it's just more aesthetically pleasing than Bing. I have to use Bing at work. I hate it.
Okay. That's fair. Well, Mark, we'll go to you next on this. What are you thinking on how you search the internet when you go on the search right now? You go to a Google tab?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I use Chrome as my primary browser, but I have a whole bunch.
Okay.
I have all the browsers loaded.
Okay, same here. Yeah, okay. We'll go and talk about that a little bit.
Search. Sometimes I will jump into Bing because I do like their AI chat in there much better than Google's.
Copilot for free.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
So I bounce around. I'm not quite sure how it's a monopoly. I mean, when you get your OS, that's not your default browser. You have to load Chrome on there.
You do, because it's by default. Edge is your
even on the
browser,
phone.
right?
I had to load Chrome on it.
Okay. Did you have like a
What
Samsung
kind of phone do
browser?
you have?
Samsung.
Samsung. So you had the
Okay.
Samsung browser.
The Samsung
instead.
browser.
Okay.
Mine came with Google installed on it. So
You know, Macs have Safari as their default.
They do. Yep.
Yeah.
So
See, I have to download Chrome. I hate using Safari as well.
Okay. All right. So
and really, it's the leaders because it was the best for a long time. There's some other ones coming out now, like Brave and some of the other ones that are doing pretty good. But pretty much the market will dictate where people go.
And I've said it many times. I do not use Google at all. I use exclusively Bing for my search.
yeah, we know
and
why.
Copilot. So just for if anybody's listening for the
You're-
first time. Well, let's talk about
You're
this.
a member
As-
of the cult of Microsoft.
There you go. Essentially, it makes it really tough to be dominant without having a great web browser. In the rulings, it's also pushing to have users of Google's search engine, which is integrated into Chrome as a part of the money-making funnel. Now there's targeting essentially Chrome to be a potential sell-off or its own division independent of the alphabet soup itself also. Now, Apple, as we just talked about, Apple does not by default use any of the Chrome items. You have to load it. Microsoft does not have any of Chrome aspects loaded into their system. They have Edge. So do you believe that the ruling that they may have to break up essentially Chrome as the browser really pays tribute to people using it as Google, or is that something that we have selected into because Google is more successful with their browser itself?
I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, my feelings on this, like right now, as we're talking about it, is why are we even bothering? What is there a necessary reason why the government is going after Google?
Well, they said that the
Unless
search
they're maybe trying to get the money for themselves. I don't know.
I don't know why all of a sudden the ruling came out, but it did happen last year. We talked about it.
We talked about it
last year when they were having the cases themselves, and it's a really strict ruling. I mean, it just says like essentially Google, the alphabet company, you're going to have to divide up. All these things are in violation of being a monopoly, and this is why you are a monopoly. It's kind of like having Park Place, but I have to give up Boardwalk, so I don't have that monopoly to make sure everybody's happy, even though I landed on Boardwalk ahead of everybody and already built my hotels on the board itself.
Well, you're kind of getting to where the crux of the situation is. So is any one of their pieces a monopoly? They have large percentage in each individual piece, yes, but there is competition. Where that comes into play is breadth-wise. They have a lot of different areas that are very high, and then they leverage them with each other. And that's really where the monopoly is coming in. Everybody's having a hard time breaking into any of the individual spaces because they can leverage all the other locations that they have.
Well, really though, see, I disagree with them kind of on the ruling here on the browser. Because I do have, I'm just looking at my machine right now. I got Firefox, I have Google Chrome, I got Opera, I have Brave, I have Safari, all as
okay, but you're a tech nerd.
You're an outlier.
You're a tech nerd. So that for me, I have Edge and Chrome. That's I used to use Firefox, but
you got rid of it.
I don't need to have all these browsers. So I have Chrome and I have Edge.
Okay.
And I think for most people, that's probably a normal.
But do you feel like you are locked in to have to use Chrome?
No.
Okay.
Why would I be? I have in fact, I have both of them tabs open full in both my Edge and my Chrome.
Okay.
So, you
keep them both full.
I mean, they're both open for different reasons and different things. So, you don't
feel there's a monopoly on your browser.
It's a question of this. I guess maybe because it really doesn't impact my life. I'm just kind of curious why. Okay, why does this necessary to?
Well, they want to break it up so that you couldn't do the search with the Chrome browser. So they want to break those up so that those are not independent, and that's how it's built currently right now. Even though I can go to Safari and choose to use Google as my main search engine, or I can go to Edge and use Google as my main search engine. I can set all those up as it's just not easy, so they're kind of
but every company out there, every major corporation out there is attempting to do the same thing. They're attempting to monopolize whatever market they're in.
Yeah, I mean
that's where
the money
is. The money is, and because corporations are simply a reflection of human behavior, when somebody challenges their monopoly, they're going to try and squash it. They're going to try and buy out their competitors. They're going to try and get rid of their competition.
Okay. All right. Odie, what browser do you use?
I have Chrome and Safari.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think. I don't use Safari at all. I only use Chrome.
All right. Do you feel that you are tied into having to use that?
No, I prefer to use it. I don't like Firefox. I don't like Bing. I don't like Edge. I especially hate Edge.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You don't have to look directly at me when you say that. That's an interesting
all right.
response.
And Mark,
I'm not over here being like the Edge guru. That's him.
How many browsers do you have? You said you had quite a few.
I have 4 I actively use.
Okay. Do you feel like you are being forced to use Edge? Or sorry, to use Chrome?
Which one?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I am not.
Okay.
But remember, Chrome, their background is, even though I use Brave, that's still a
Chromium background.
background.
Yep. So this still uses some of that. Yep.
Firefox is kind of your exception there.
All right. So last thing here that comes on out is essentially, let's talk about the OS for phones, because Google owns Android, right? And if you have an Android phone, that's essentially the free software that Google provides for cell phones to be used with a standard. I mean, you really have 2 options in your phone deal. You can either use a Google OS, which is Android, or you can use a Apple OS, which is essentially the Mac OS iOS solution.
What would you use if you wanted to have something else on your Android?
Well,
because on Safari, I mean, with Apple, I can just download Chrome.
Well, yeah, the courts and lawmakers want to make Google's advantage in the mobile operating system depleted. One option would be to essentially have Android as a separate company from Google, that you could essentially purchase it, or to come up with other competitive phone operating systems. Now, Microsoft tried to do this once.
They've been trying to do this, right? Microsoft tried to do it. It's not working out.
It didn't fail. So it failed. So Android is really superior on how their phone operation works. Everybody's either familiar with the Apple OS or they're familiar with the Android OS. They aren't the same by any means, but there's a lot of similarities. You have your same settings, you have your same different areas in that. But as a part of this legislation that may be coming on up, they're looking to take Android out of the Google infrastructure.
Yeah. Well, again, for me, I don't care. All I want is for it to work. That's when it comes to technology. That's my biggest problem is it going to work? Does it work?
Okay.
Because we all know what happens when it doesn't work.
All right. Okay.
But you brought up a good point while we were talking about our stories, like with Indonesia. Indonesia is putting the kibosh on a web browser, but Google is still there.
Yep.
So what is Google doing that DuckDuckGo isn't?
Well, either Google is giving them the information so they can go after the people, or they're not giving them the information and they have no idea. I mean, it has to be one or the other, right? I mean, that's what you'd figure. If I controlled my search algorithm as a company on Google, I would probably share that with the Indonesian legislators that want to know that information so that they can then track down those people that are gambling and go into porn places and get the money back.
Wow. That sounds like sort of like
probably what's happening.
Hunting down resistance.
There you go.
The key on the monopolies is it's not about whether they squash other people or what else is there. It's really about, is there an environment for other people to compete at all?
Because, and I would say Apple is more, in my opinion, Apple's more of a killer on this with charging all their fees for all their
after Google out of
so this court case,
at that point go after Disney.
Are they lining this up as a precedent to go after everybody else?
Yes. That is the industry experts decisions that this is going to be how this comes out and regulated here can then be distributed to Microsoft, Apple, all these other companies. NVIDIA is one of the companies now also being looked at for this that we didn't get to and talk about that today because that story had to be cut. But they're on the chopping block also for legislation on how they're doing their microprocessing monopoly on their graphics cards.
So when you come back to that, the question is, let's take their phones. Is it that there's not been a better phone that a competitor has come out with, or that they've squashed everything?
They've squashed it. I mean, look at Apple with Android. The whole thing with the green text bubble.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing for like your age.
Yeah.
Whether it's a blue bubble or a green bubble when you're texting.
I can ruin friendships right then and there.
I don't understand how that is even the case.
That's a social monopoly.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have you had the BlackBerry, which was the king.
That was
and then Android came out, and it was what people wanted. So they gradually migrated, but at least they had the opportunity. So as long as there's opportunity for other people to come in, then it's not a monopoly. If they're stifling innovation and competition, then that should be broken up.
But that's part of a free market system.
Okay. Yeah.
It is because the cream rises to the top, and if the consumer wants to pay for that,
I don't know if I would say the cream rises to the top. But what happens? The whole reason we break up
monopolies is to keep free trade and to keep a free market. Monopolies stifle free markets and trade.
Right, and that's one of the natural, I guess, consequences of a free market system is that you have these companies that can create monopolies.
Correct.
But that's been the human nature in governments, in cities, and civilizations.
So it's a certain point, and then all of a sudden people want to make a decision, and so now they're making a decision.
So now
has there been, since this has been going on for hundreds of years, breaking up these monopolies, or at least 100 years, has there been one that we've regretted breaking up?
Not really.
No.
Right,
not that I can think of.
I don't know. AT&T's still around.
Yeah,
and they have their fingers in everything.
But they allowed a lot of other phone companies and local ones to come into the market that help competition, that help keep prices stable. New innovation.
Yep. Well, all right. Well, that ends our roundtable feature. I want to thank our staff for being a part of this.
Pitchforks. Let's go after Google.
Only on TechTime Radio can you get all these points of views on subjects affecting technology. Now let's move on to our mesmerizing moment.
Welcome to Mike's mesmerizing moment. What does Mike have to say today?
All right, Mike. Talking about your article, it seems humans always find a way to get things done that they want. Is this a common trait for humans?
I don't even know that I need to speak on that, because the answer is yes.
Okay. Well,
it doesn't matter what you're legislating. You're going to have a certain percentage of people who aren't going to agree with that and are going to do what they want to do, especially when you're trying to legislate morality.
Okay.
One of the greatest experiments on that for the American public was prohibition.
Oh yeah,
where we tried to legislate morality, and what did we do?
We outlawed alcohol.
Yeah,
So
we
all this
outlawed
alcohol was all being made behind doors.
and what did we get out of it? We got organized crime for one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it just was a complete and utter failure. So anytime you're trying to legislate morality, you're in trouble.
Okay.
Because always people are going to do things. And when, it's funny when we talk about this stuff, it comes down to certain things.
Yeah.
Access to things like gambling, alcohol, pornography,
and probably drugs.
Yeah. Things
all the vices.
Things that we consider to be vices. And even to this day, in 250,000 years or more of human development, we are still trying to get humans not to do this stuff, and it's not going to work. Okay. So yes, they're going to continue to find ways around it. The people in Indonesia are going to find ways around it, regardless of
what browser they're using. Yeah. All right, well, that ends our mesmerizing moment. Up next, we have This Week in Technology. So now would be a great time to enjoy a little whiskey on the side, as I will be doing so, and Mike will be during the break. See you after this break.
How to See a Man About a Dog. It combines darkly comic short stories, powerful poems, and pulp fiction prose to create a heartbreaking and hilarious journey readers will not soon forget. Read How to See a Man About a Dog, collected writings, for free with Kindle Unlimited. Ebook available on Kindle, print copies available on Amazon the Bookpository, and more.
And now, let's look back at This Week in Technology.
All right, we're going back to August 3rd, 1977. Radio Shack introduces their first computer, the TRS-80, also known as
Trash 80.
The Trash 80, with the support of the 3,500 Radio Shack stores, plus a relatively low cost. The TRS-80 helped drive the acceptance of a personal computer in the home. Originally forecasting sales for just 3,000 of these units to 5,000 per year. The TRS-80 sold over 10,000 units in the first month, and a half of the sales in the first month and a half of sales, and 200,000 over the lifetime of the product. The TRS-80, a microcomputer system, later renamed as the Model 1 to distinguish it from its successors, was a desktop microcomputer that launched in 1977, sold by Tandy Corporation through their Radio Shack stores. The first units, ordered unseen, were delivered in November of 1977 and rolled out to stores the third week of December, right in time for that holiday cheer. The line won popularity with hobbyists, home users, and small businesses. In the USA, Tandy claimed that it had 7,000 Radio Shack stores in over 40 countries. The pre-release price for this basic system came with a CPU, keyboard, and video monitor, was $500 with a $50 refundable money-back guarantee, deposit required. That was This Week in Technology. If you ever wanted to watch some Tech Time history with over 200 weekly broadcasts spanning 5+ years of video, podcasts, and blog information, visit techtimeradio.com to watch our older shows and to also see how we do on our whiskey picks. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we have Mark's Mumble Whiskey Review. See you after this.
Hello, my name is Arthur, and my life's work is connecting people with coffee. Story Coffee is a small batch specialty coffee company that uses technology to connect people to each product resource, which allows farmers to unlock their economic freedom. Try our Medium Roast Founder Series coffee, which is an exotic bourbon variety that is smooth, fresh, and elegant at storycoffee.com. That's STORI coffee.com. Today you can get your first bag free when you subscribe at storycoffee.com with code TechTime. That's STORI coffee.com.
The segment we've been waiting all week for, Mark's Whiskey Mumble.
Well, gentlemen.
All right, what do we got going
August
on for
6th. Well, first of all, it's one of our super fans' 60th birthday today.
Oh, who's that?
Mark Bowen. So happy birthday to Mark Bowen.
There you go, Mark Bowen.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers. All right.
But what else is August 6th?
I have no idea. National Butterfly Day.
Oh, you're kind of close.
How about National Butterfly Day? Bat Day?
No, National Wiggle Your Toes Day.
How does that got to do with anything with butterflies?
Well, they flap. Like your toes.
National Wiggle Your
Wiggle.
Toes.
I don't know if you got flappy toes, you might have a problem.
I don't know. I'm wiggling my toes right now. Okay.
They're not flapping, you're
Nice.
wiggling.
Okay.
Now, it's a fun day for you to show off your digits. The easiest way to celebrate the day is by simply letting your 10 little piggies see the light of day and wiggle your toes with your like-minded friends.
Okay.
Okay, please.
Now, why not?
Do not.
All
Mike,
right. I can't wait. I
Go
can't
the
wait for
extra
dinner.
mile, Mike, for this holiday and indulge in a pedicure to make your toe wiggling adventure extra glamorous.
Oh, that would I could see.
Oh
Mike
yeah,
sitting down
that's my bag right there.
I do a pedicure.
You do pedicures?
I do all the time.
Or
I do
you get pedicures?
I do. I
Okay.
I get one once.
Wow.
You're a secret pedicurist.
What do you find?
Do not take your shoes off.
Oh, why is that?
We
I
just,
can't-
yeah.
I
we should
can't
all
wait
wiggle
to
our
go.
toes on camera.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We would get really big reviews if we
We
did
probably
that.
would. There's a lot of people like
From
feet.
who?
So let me take a look. All right.
Woo, all right. Well, now wiggling those little piggies, you know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
Jamón Ibérico from Spain.
Oh, okay. That really makes me.
Ooh la la.
Okay. Nice transition.
Speaking of Spain, let's chat about Old Carter Oak Spanish Oak.
I'm beginning to worry about you, Mark.
Just now you're beginning.
No, I mean you're starting to show some Nathan mental connections.
Oh,
that
there
are
you go.
Very,
Okay. I like
Piggies.
So
That. Yeah, I like
Spain.
that.
And my favorite pig to eat is from Spain.
Okay. I
Okay.
like that.
Perfect connection.
All right.
Look at that.
Now, the Old Charter Oak collection honors and celebrates the role of oak in making great whiskey by exploring the various possible taste profiles of whiskey resulting from barrels created from trees grown in different countries, climates, and soil.
Okay.
The oak trees used each year in their special releases vary by country of origin, species, U.S. state, and as we mentioned, countries. And some barrels are made from century-old trees that grew between 100 to 300 years old.
Ooh.
Now, a common misconception that many people have is that bourbon is aged only in new American oak containers.
Okay.
Most bourbons are, though federal regulations do not specify what type of oak, only that it must be a new charred oak container. Therefore, we get a lot of great whiskey from European oak.
Okay.
And this is one example of Spanish oak made in the U.S., so it still is technically bourbon.
All right. I didn't know any of that.
Now, this whiskey for me is lush, rich, and I would say decadent.
Ooh.
It packs a lot of flavor for one so low proof. It's not for everyone.
Okay.
It is drier with spicier notes and flavors like clove. For me, it's dessert. A little goes a long way. I just sip it at the end after drinking other things. It's a tough one to start your palate on.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. Do we go into our whiskey pick of the day right now then, or should we talk
Can we?
about? Let's
talk about the fail of the week.
Oh, you want to talk? Okay. Well, let's talk
Yeah.
about the. Well, hang on.
We need
First,
to give.
we need to say whiskey and technology is such a great pairing. Just like a TRS 80 and a floppy disk.
Not a floppy disk.
Yeah.
It had to be a tape player.
No, there was a
Anyway.
floppy disk upgrade that came
Mine
up
had
with
a
that.
dual drive floppy.
Do you know
disk.
how to make a floppy disk double the size? A hole punch, because the
Yes,
media was
I
put
remember.
on both sides of
yes,
it.
I
Only
remember
later
hole
could you
punching
put a hole
floppies.
punch in there, and you could have double size.
Poor Odie doesn't even know what we're even
She's
referencing.
like, floppy
Oh
disk,
my
what are you
goodness.
talking about? All
What's
right.
our fail?
Okay, our fail. Let's go to our fail of the week.
Oh,
You want to go to our fail of the week?
We are out of time. Congratulations.
literally, we are out of time.
You're a failure.
Oh. I failed. Did I?
Yes.
Did I?
Yes.
Did I?
Yes.
All right. Well, Elon Musk is at it again this second week in a row. He has his own AI bot, Grok, which essentially tells people information that's false. So 5 secretaries of state have an open letter to the billionaire asking him to please fix his chatbot so that they can have the correct information and not allow people to say that you could not have certain people on ballots or other election information that is causing people problems.
He's
All
getting
right.
in trouble with the UK too. We can talk about that next week.
He's in trouble with everybody. All right, our pick of the week, whiskey tasting. What are you going to give it? A thumbs up or thumbs down, Mike?
I'm going to give it a thumbs up. This is a really interesting taste and flavor profile. So, yeah, I like it.
I'm going to have to give it a thumbs down.
All right.
I didn't come around to it. It was kind of bitter, and it kind of stayed bitter, and so I'm you know what? It's probably too rich for my blood.
Yeah, you should take a little bit home and try it like after a long evening of other drinking. See where it fits.
So I have to drink first.
You got to get smashed.
So you got
this is like
that's
this
like
is
high school all over
this
again.
This is like beer goggles for your
No. It's like dessert. You don't start off with dessert.
Okay, well,
dessert's at the end, just a little bit.
Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us. It was an honor to be your host of today's show. Join us next week where bites collide, circus sings, and geeks reign supreme. I'm your host, Nathan Mumm, signing off with a binary wink. See you next week.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on TechTime Radio. We hope that you had a chance to have that moment today in technology. The fun doesn't stop there. We recommend that you go to techtimeradio.com and join our fan list for the most important aspect of staying connected and winning some really great monthly prizes. We also have a few other ways to stay connected, including subscribing to our podcast on any podcast service, from Apple to Google and everything in between. We're also on YouTube, so check us out on youtube.com/TechTimeRadio, all one word. We hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did making it for you. From all of us at TechTime Radio, remember, mum's the word. Have a safe and fantastic week.